Adam, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great. How are you? Happy to be here. Thank you.
Doing good. We're gonna spin the fancy logo thing and then we'll get into it.
Awesome.
So we're here today to talk about your short film that you are a large part of in multiple roles, Adam Adamson, which is a real estate comedy. But I'm going to leave it up to you to explain it to people, so I don't butcher it and you can get it correct for the audience.
Yeah. Well, so Adam Adamson, licensed realtor. We shot that a few years ago. I had hair back then. That's all. That's how I. That's my demarcation line of when I do things now.
Do you blame that on the pandemic and the vaccine, or is that just unrelated?
Well, my barber shut down during the pandemic, and when you're going bald, you need to get more haircuts, not less. So I just
Okay.
decided to buzz it. And it's as a funny anecdote, when I did that, I really liked it. I really actually prefer this, but I did like a little selfie, which I never do, and I posted it to like Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Like, hey, new look. What who this? Whatever. And I got a lot of texts from people saying like, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And I was like,
Oh
why are
boy.
you checking up on me, right? And then I realized, oh, they remembered the whole Britney Spears thing. And it was like, no, I'm good. This is the new me. And
Reading too many articles online about how the pandemic is affecting mental health, and they just something in your eyes, the way the sun was hitting through your the window of the apartment you were trapped in just made you look a little unhinged, I guess.
it
Yeah.
was it was honestly a good choice. I don't regret it. But
Or
so
or maybe they're relating you to the character from this film, which goes back to setting it up perfectly.
yes, so look, at the time when we shot this, I was doing real estate. I did real estate in New York for 10 years, doing mainly rental apartments. And I found that at the time, I was really interested in exploring this idea of self-promotion, which I think by way of social media and just the digital age that we live in, we are constantly under pressure to promote ourselves and really to shine sort of the best parts of ourselves out there. When in reality, it's not always concurrent with reality. So
Mhm.
and so I was interested in using the promotional video as a device to kind of explore some of those themes about self-promotion and how sometimes how we present ourselves to the world by way of social media or self-promotion isn't always concurrent with the reality of our life experiences and our lived experiences.
Because this film definitely takes a turn at around the halfway mark and then just continues to take a turn, which I really love. And I've seen some other of your short films, and I've definitely seen some of Adriano, the director's shorts, which I really, really, really hope get on Reveal soon so that I can chat with him.
I've been nudging him,
I,
and
you know, I played alongside of him at festivals. Like I said, I laughed far more at his shorts than I did my own or anything else that was there. So
love to
we'll
hear
come
that.
back around to that. But how? So you work in real estate. So obviously these are things that you think about while you're going about your job in an actual professional manner. And the film is a little bit of it's a bit of like a descent into madness as a real estate agent is trying to make his perfect promo video,
Yeah.
which again can be, you used to just have to have your nice photo on a billboard or in the magazines, and then video came along. It's like, now I gotta have all these commercials. Now I gotta have all these social media posts. Now I gotta have a drone shot of every house. And I can see how that would start to wear on somebody. And I feel like the setup in your film is very earnest. Um, is it cathartic to work in real estate and then make comedies about real estate? Does that help sort of center you in your day-to-day job?
Absolutely. When I started, my first time signing up for Instagram was as my handle was Adams APTS, and I only put out like real estate themes, comedy memes, and had a lot of fun with that, and a lot of I met a lot of realtors through that, and I actually closed a lot of deals through that, even with just like the few followers I had, and so I knew that there was space in this world for comedy in the real estate world, just because it is a crazy industry. And I think that the level of self promotion and sort of what we call real estate porn, when you see these sort of videos from like the $1 million listing guys who I'm I don't want to insult them in any way. I think the content they put out is really great and beautiful, but it's not real life. Most of the real estate agents who work in New York are working class rental agents like myself. When I was working in real estate in more earnest, I'm really kind of more on the outskirts of it now, but I just felt like there was room for a promotional video that kind of, like you said, started off in one direction, takes a hard right. And as a storyteller, I'm always interested in exploring that, and sort of leading the audience down a path and then kind of taking a hard right turn, and just sort of seeing, what the reaction is. And I think that when you're telling these stories, you do need to kind of, at least I do, I need to start from a place of like, well, this is something I want to see, and this is something that this feels urgent to me. And so I hope that, and some people love it, and some people think it's too weird. So
It's never too weird. That's what short films are for. Go out there and be
I had a
weird.
great piece of feedback from I don't have representation as a writer,
Yeah.
but I do have a lawyer who copyrights all my stuff, and he said to me, I sent this short to a couple of agents I know on the West Coast, and I got great feedback from one, and one other piece of feedback, do you want to hear it? And he was like, one of them loved it, the other said, please don't ever send me anything from this guy again. So, which honestly,
I think you struck a nerve. I think you struck a nerve.
fantastic spectrum to be on, and is exactly where I want to be. So
Tell me a bit about the production. How do you know Adriano? How did you guys meet and start working together? And where in your sort of catalog of appearing in each other's work does this lie?
when I got out of my background is in theater, and when I got out of college, I knew that I wanted to make short films, web series, something in the film world, and I had absolutely no idea how to do that. I still have very a little idea how to do that. I know where my lane is as a writer and as a producer, and sometimes as an actor, but I knew I needed to find community, and I needed to find people who I could collaborate with, who were like-minded creatives, who wanted to, have some fun, tell some stories. And I connected with Adriano through a good friend, a mutual friend of ours named Carmine De Benedetto, who's a fantastic actor who I went to college with, and ended up, being a New York writer producer, flying out to the West Coast to do these web series with Adriano, and then it felt time to do something in New York. So he came to New York, and we shot this over the course of 3 days, which was insane. It was crazy. It's a lot of locations packed into a 7-minute short, and it was a wild ride. And it's been a 3-year journey to have it find a home. So I'm thrilled that it's landed at Reveel'd, and we're very grateful. So, but that's sort of how Adriano and I started working together.
Tell me about some of the stories of making the film. What were the biggest challenges that you encountered? And I imagine I don't make many comedies myself, but the few I've made end up having some pretty funny stories on set. So anything that sticks out from this particular production?
Yeah. So there's a section of the film where it takes place where he's showing an apartment to a young couple, and I did everything I could as a producer in this, because I was obviously heavily involved in the pre-production, to make sure we were shooting this in the dead of summer. So it was very hot, and I knew that it was going to be hot. I had to transport a 10,000 BTU air conditioner from my remote office nearby in Manhattan, where we were shooting, into this empty apartment where we got our location. And I hooked it up, and I swear I pulled like 17 muscles, because I'm not a athletic guy. And it did absolutely nothing. I mean, all of that hassle. I mean, when you have 15 people cramped into an apartment, it's a miracle that all of us aren't glaring from sweat in those shots. But I did my best, and I think that's what you do with these projects: is you do your best, you put your best foot forward. I ended up treating everyone to not just lunch, but an extra round of smoothies, which, like, everybody was surprised that I did that. Like, it was kind of like, no one does that. And
Well, I think it's rare in indie film to get anything beyond the basics. You've been warned will be the basics. Yeah.
well, and not to espouse some high moral ground here, but when we're doing these projects, I obviously pay everybody who works with me. That's very important to me as a creative.
Mhm.
But it's more than that. This is a community building exercise.
Yeah.
And if you are not going into these projects thinking about the little extras that you can provide, you're not going to have a good time there. No one is going to have a good time. And frankly, no one's going to want to work with you again. And so I find that the only real currency in this business that matters is your relationships. And then of course it's nice when you actually get money. That's another valuable currency. But
And if you make something of quality that can push everybody's career forward, which is
yeah,
always the goal, right?
yeah,
Everything, all short films, I think for audiences out there that don't work in film, it's like it's all if it was a war, these are all the little battles we get to move the soldiers forward a little bit towards the end goal of having a permanent career and staying in the film industry versus getting sent well, the bad side of war, what happens to you. Yeah.
well, and I just have and I know I sometimes sound like I'm really not blowing smoke. I hold these people that I collaborate with in such reverence and respect for their craft and their dedication to this craft, and to continue learning and growing, and the humility involved with doing these projects. Like, I don't make money as a filmmaker yet, but I still consider myself a filmmaker. And I think that's a sentiment I try to imbue, for lack of a better term, on anyone who I speak to in this business. Yes, it is important to at some point make money doing this. I think that's very important. But until then, you don't have control of that. You have control of what you do and the work that you want to do. And harnessing the creative control in your life to me has been a very empowering thing. And I encourage everybody to make a short film. I think it's a great experience, and heartbreaking and expensive, but also a lot of fun.
And I'm similar to you in the way my producing partners, I've always tried to have work with a local brewery and end up with a keg of beer at the end of week one of a feature shoot, or work out a deal with a restaurant where everyone's getting a few free drinks with their meal that we're providing that night. Just all the, or hot days, popsicles.
Right.
Mr. Freezies go a long way with a cast and crew when they're not expecting it. And it
Sure.
just, I think anything you can do, you're right, to show your appreciation of the hard work and the talent that people are giving you. Because even on a short film, they're usually doing it for somewhat of a reduced rate, even if they're paid,
Absolutely.
generally speaking. So yeah, the more that you appreciate people, I find the harder they want to work, the more they're going to want to come back and work with you. And
Yeah.
you're right, it really is about the community of just respecting everybody's talents on set, because no one of us, unless we're Steven Soderbergh, that's his own director, AD, producer, camera operator, cinematographer, and editor, if we're not, and writer, if we're not that person, we need our crew. We need to shout them from the rooftops as much as possible. I find
I don't want to posture like I've got it all figured out. Like, I've made mistakes, and I'm sure there's been some, people have had to endure me at times. But at the end of the day, my hope is that when all's said and done, people have had a positive experience working with me, and that's something that's just crucially important to me. And as I continue to do this work, there's no other reason to do it other than to build these relationships.
Now, you and I first met over the app Clubhouse, the new social media app, which is
I'm not on it anymore. I hope they're doing well.
like all social media, it's got its pockets of good, and then there's just a large swath of what is happening here.
Yeah.
How important is the social media aspect and the networking aspect of filmmaking to seeing your projects come to fruition, to getting them out there in the world?
Well, I think that I have not yet, let me say this, I have not yet worked with someone who I met through social media. I've not worked in earnest with someone who I met
Okay.
on social media. However, I have, connected with some fantastic filmmakers who I have seen their work by way of social media. So I see an inherent value in social media, in the creative space. I know obviously in the tech and whatever, home design, however you want to put it. I live and work in the creative space. So that's what we're talking about. So I've gotten to see some fantastic work from some filmmakers who I absolutely adore now and have been following their work. And, candidly speaking, Gavin, your film as well really came to me at a time when Last Call, during the pandemic, it connected with me on a level that I I wasn't expecting. And then to connect with you on social media, for me has been one of the great benefits, stories of benefit of social media. So I've been delighted to connect with you and to learn more about your work process, and you've taught me a lot, as have all of the directors who've taken the time to talk to me and work with me as I'm a theater kid, I'm still learning this business. So
I have a well, it's having a theater kid wife too. I think that makes me understand the creature of the actor a little bit
very
more, a
talented.
little bit more sensitively than I have in the past, maybe. So this film, it got out there. Did it play festivals? Did you get to enjoy it with an audience and have a reaction to it? What's the general consensus of people who aren't real estate agents when they watch the film?
Had great feedback from real estate agents who've watched it. I've had muted some weird feedback from people who aren't in the business, but the idea of the homeless real estate agent, not to give too much away, was funny enough to people. And then to kind of comment on some of the personal stuff that I've been through in my life in this piece, because I do end up injecting some of my own past experiences into my work. A lot of writers like to kind of go from the outside in. I go from the gut out. And so it felt urgent to me. It's been, I like this cringe space. I
Mm-hmm.
like the cringe
Yeah.
comedy space. I think there's value to it. It's stuff that I like to see. So the feedback's been mixed. We had a great festival run. I'm delighted with the film and what we accomplished, what Adriano and I accomplished together, and we finished our festival run last year, and now we're on to the next.
My favorite moment in the piece is, again, trying to avoid spoilers, but is the plant moment.
Yeah,
And there's such a long, almost like Family Guy awkward pause where you're like, what's going to happen? He does
yeah,
not like these people he's showing this place to anymore. What is this going to turn?
yeah.
And then it just does something that you couldn't predict the way that it turns. And that's my favorite moment in the whole piece. But
Thank
that's
you.
I think anytime you have somebody who's a little bit unstable, I think that's the fun with the storytelling. You can take audiences where you're laying it down, you're putting the red herring of where you think
Yeah.
something's going, and then take it completely left. And that's why everyone out there should tune into Reveel'd.net and watch this short film. Adam Adamson, licensed realtor. Is that the name, the full
Yeah.
title of the film? Okay, got it right. And it's free. You sign up for Reveel'd.net, you build your account just like you would any other streaming service, but you don't have to put down a credit card. You don't have to pay for anything. You just get to watch a bunch of great content. And then if you're sitting on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram watching us have this discussion about a film you haven't seen yet, what is stopping you? Just go do it. Adam, don't you agree? Everyone should
I
have a Reveal
agree.
account to
I
watch these
cannot
movies. Yeah.
I cannot thank you and Revealed enough for welcoming us. And I just want to
Happy to
say,
have you.
and also I do credit this film in large part to Adriano. So if you're interested in watching some of his work as well, his website is adrianovalentini.com. My website is c-productions.com. I named it after
Your
uh,
grades
my
in high
grades
school?
in high
Yeah.
school. And yeah, so, and if you want to see weird memes about my awkward dating life, you can follow me on Rentally Unstable on
Which is one of the best handles on all of Instagram at Rentally Unstable. Adam, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great one.
Thank you for having me, Mike.